I was already been informed that I have a left and right lateral limit between that speaker and that speaker. So I'll just start from here, but we ain't gonna end up here. I will say first and foremost that I am absolutely honored to be in your company. The first time I had the opportunity to stand before this group or a similar group, such as yourselves, Mr. Martin was kind enough to invite me here. And for some reason, he asked me to come back. And I certainly won't question his sincerity. I might question his sobriety of why he would do that. But this is an important gathering of people. And it doesn't take long to really notice that. It doesn't take long for it to jump out at you. You know, if you look up the definition of change agent, you say it's an individual who takes the initiative to orchestrate changes within an organization. The subtext to that, however, shares that it says that all change agents are leaders, but all leaders aren't change agents. On which I beg to differ. And I will submit to you that everyone seated in this room, those that are standing up against the bulkhead, that's why we're here. You're here because you're leaders. The last time I had an opportunity to be before you, I was speaking to a gentleman, and I don't know his name, but I know his face because he's seated right there. And he said something to me. I was just seated. I was just floating around, from place to place. And thankfully, nobody kicked me out of any of the breakouts. They probably just ignored me and kept on doing their business, which is a good thing. But he said something to me, and it stuck. And unfortunately, it didn't stick rightly at the time that he said it. He said, everybody who is here doesn't have to be here. Everybody that's here is volunteered to be here. And I shook my head and said, wow, that's impressive. And then it sunk down in me. And I'm so glad that he's here because I'm going to disagree with him. You are not here because somebody put your name on the roster. You're not here because somebody bribed you or said, why don't you come on down and spend a couple of days in Nashville. No, you're here because you're supposed to be here. Who else would be here if you're not here? Because that's what leaders do. I've heard the name, or I've heard the word volunteer a couple of times now. I'm going to ask that you even erase that word from your brain housing. Volunteers have to be somewhat coerced. Volunteers have to be nudged a little bit to step up to the plate. Not leaders. Leaders lead because no one else can do it but them. You know, one of the most exciting things about this gathering, at least for me, is the fact that everyone seated here is a change agent. And you don't change organizations. You change the lives of people. As a matter of fact, I'll even ask you to just disregard the word organization. An organization is nothing more than a wide diagram that sits on somebody's board. See, this is a whole lot less than an organization. A whole lot more of an organism. This thing lives. And you are an integral part of that. One of the most important things about leadership is that a leader has to make another leader. And no one else can do it but them. No one else can sidestep the process. You can't microwave it. It takes time. It takes an investment in people. And that's really part of your succession plan. Because everyone in this room, regardless of what you may think, has a shelf lifespan. And one day, either you're going to break your organization's heart, or the organization is going to break your heart. But sooner or later, you're going to have to go. And the question is, who have you prepared to take your place? To pour into the knowledge and experience that you have, and to place it in someone else. We recognize that as leaders that there are two lists, and everybody occupies one of those two lists. So before you go from the who's who to the who were they, you need to invest some time into somebody. This thing we call change is both inevitable and an essential catalyst for progress. People have two gears. They either have drive or they've got reverse. No, they don't have a neutral, because if all you're doing is marking time, you're probably regressing. Nor do you have a park, because if you're just stuck and stagnant, that means you're dead. So that means either I'm going forward or I'm going back. But it takes leaders to lead. And we cannot do it without you. Is it easy? If it was easy, anybody could do it. That's also why you're here. Because everybody can't. And just because it's hard, it doesn't give the leader a get out of jail free card. The 12th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Coleman Powell, probably said it
better than anyone else that leadership is all about people. It's not about organizations, it's not about plans, it's not about strategies, it's all about people. Motivating other people to get the job done. It's always about people. Now, even though that we all know this, sometimes it helps us to be reminded that people are not resources. That is not denigrating any man or woman that is in human resources. People are resources. Resource is something that you use and is easily expendable, like a screwdriver or a hammer. That's a resource. See, once I start treating people as resources, I can start easily dehumanizing everybody that I'm leading. They become nothing more than a commodity that I can do without. This is one thing I learned a long time ago from the division commander of the 1st Greene Division. That the more senior you become, the less you have to do with your own success. We don't have major generals in fight mode. We don't have colonels manning machine guns. We got PFCs and Lance Corporals doing that. We've got very junior people making very senior people look very good. And as a leader, I've got to keep that in mind. That I'm there to shape them, to mold them, to encourage them to do greater and greater things. During the 1950s, there was a combat decision-making process that was instituted in the United States Air Force by a colonel by the name of John Boyd. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's called the OODA loop. Stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. And the whole purpose of the OODA loop, again, it was a combat decision-making process. And the whole guise behind that was that if I can make my OODA loop spin faster than the enemy's, I will disrupt his information flow. But the whole idea of observing, orienting, deciding, and acting are not standalones. That I can't spend too much time on one and disregard the other. That the loop is only as good as it's refined. So I'm going to just leave you with 3 quick things. And I probably spent more time than I should before you. I know you guys are probably tapped out as far as PowerPoints, death by view graph, and all these other things, which is why I made certain that I was not going to have a slide. But I'm going to leave you with 3 elements. Good thing about these elements is that you already have them. Every one of you have them. So it's not something you need to acquire. It's something that you need to refine. Something you just need to keep sharpening. It's the same reason why that you come here or places like here or have conferences like this every year. Just to keep your edge sharp. It's not to create another tool, just to keep it sharp. And the reason why that's so important for each of you is because by doing so, you show the difference between amateurs and professionals. Because amateurs practice till they get it right. professionals practice till they can't get it wrong. That you do this over and over again, just to keep you sharp. First thing is integrity. You already know what integrity is. Quality, being honest. Having a strong moral principle. It's moral uprightness. The thing about integrity is, it's not quantifiable. Integrity is qualified. No such thing as having more integrity. No such thing as having a little bit of integrity. Having a little bit of integrity is like me saying I'm a little bit pregnant. No, either you are or you aren't. And this is not a quantifiable thing. Either I am or I don't have it. It's adherence to a moral and ethical standard. It's where I have my moral compass always pointing an azimuth to true north, not magnetic north. And my moral adherence can just shift from time to time. From where you stand, integrity just simply means this: that if you tell me that a mosquito can pull a plow, the only thing I need to do is go out and look him up. Because as a leader, your integrity's got to be that solid. Your integrity speaks to your identity. Not who I think I am. It's who I really am. And who do others perceive I am? There's a word that we throw around to show people that maybe don't have integrity. We call them hypocrites. And when you ask them, well, define that for me, you say, well, they're saying one thing and doing another. That's not a hypocrite. That's a human being. Because whether you want to raise your hand or not, everyone in this room has said one thing and done the opposite. Either by some situation, some circumstance. Maybe I just couldn't come through with what I said. That's human. That's not being a hypocrite. I'm going to give you this one for free. I ain't going to charge you for this one. That word hypocrite comes from the Greek word, hypocrites. It speaks of an actor that wears a mask, which means a hypocrite is someone who pretends to be what they know they're not. Am I authentic to the people I'm leading? Am I putting on a front for the people I'm leading? Am I one way on Monday and another way on Tuesday? Even though we realize that things press upon us, press upon our very lives, doesn't mean I can't act you. Doesn't mean that things don't impact me. But even though I can't do anything about what happens to me, I can do everything about how I respond. That's what leaders have to do. If I'm going to shape people, you got to have integrity. It's who I am, manifested by the words and actions that come from me. But not only integrity, Intimacy. Now, before we start squirming in our chairs when we think about intimacy, intimacy just simply means, can you lead with love? And I'm going to share this with you right now. If you ain't loving, you ain't leading. If you can't care about the person that you are shaping, then you ain't leading nobody. That old adage that nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care is just as true right now as it was when it was first said. Nobody cares about your title. The question is, do you care about me? And we're not talking about the noun of love. We're talking about the verb of love. That love is an action word. I defy you to find anything written down that commands you that you need to love yourself. You know why you won't find that? Because if you don't love nobody else, you don't love yourself. The question is, can you love somebody else? Can you care that much about somebody else's life? That you can cry with them when they need it. That you can laugh with them. I came home from deployment too many years ago. Stood in the parking lot, 29 Palms, California. With a young sergeant. I just thought about this really the other day. He got orders going to 3rd Marine Regiment in Hawaii. And we've been through some stuff. I looked at this young man. Of course, you never say goodbye. But we didn't have to. And we stood in the middle of that parking lot and hugged each other and cried like we were 5 years old. And didn't give a tinker's damn who saw us. I didn't do that because that just sprung up on me like that. I did that because someone did that with me. Someone who saw something in me that I didn't see myself. And that's precisely what your job is. Your job isn't to put anything in anybody. Your job is to pull it out of them. Your job is to recognize something in them that they don't even know they have. You know, there's a story. It's called The Wizard of Oz. Some of y'all may be familiar with it. And some of you may have heard me share this once before. And if you have, just don't spoil it for the purposes next time. But that whole story of the Wizard of Oz really says all we need to know about what the job of a leader is. So you had the Scarecrow Tin Man in his line. Dorothy shows up, her and the dog told her. We all want to go see the wizard, because if I can just get to the wizard, and he'll give me what I'm looking for. Dorothy wants to go back home to Kansas. Scarecrow wanted the brain. Tin Man wanted the heart. The Lion wanted courage. It takes them through all of these machinations, and they finally get to the wizard. And then the wizard tells them something that none of them ever realized. That what they all looked for, they already had. They just didn't know they had it. That it didn't manifest inside of them until they were placed in a situation until it had to come out. And that's what you're here for. Because people are just like tea bags. You know exactly what's inside of them when you put them in hot water. And when you put them under a stressor, those that are supposed to be diamonds will become diamonds. These young men and women that you lead right now, they may not know they have this thing. You've got to show it to them. But you've got to place them in positions where that will come out. Intimacy. Cohesion through care. Building connections through trust. And that's the one thing you nor I can afford to lose. Because once I lose trust, I may never get it back. Do they trust you? Do you trust yourself? Because those that you're leading are depending on you. Vince Lombardi used these words, says, I don't necessarily have to like my players and associates, but as a leader, I must love them. And love is loyalty, love is teamwork, love respects the dignity of the individual. That's the strength of any organization. And that will bind you closer than anything else. If you have love one for another. Love takes a little bit of selflessness and being selfless doesn't mean that you think less of yourself. It means that you think of yourself less. That I don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer all the time. I ain't got to try to be the burning bush all the time. That I can esteem others better than myself. Last thing is influence. Notice all three of these begin with the letter I. And they all feed into one another. One can't stand by itself. And all three of these feed one another, influence. If you're looking for a one-word definition of leadership, that's it. Because you can't make anybody do anything. But you can influence them. Many basketball women, that's easy for you to say, go to the military, you can make folks do it. No, that's why we got a place called the Greene. Or if the brig doesn't work, allow me to introduce you to the United States Military Disciplinary Barracks at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. No, the fact is you can't make anyone do something. No, but you can influence them. No, to affect someone else, change their behavior. And that's really the whole point of being a change agent. Because you don't cause change by email. You don't cause change by a policy letter. You don't even do it with a memorandum. You cause change by changing the attitude of people. And that's precisely where you come in at. It affects their character, affects their development. It reminds us that leaders don't make an impression. Leaders make an impact. And that's what each of you do on a daily basis. Because you would have no one follow you if you did. One thing about influence, then I'm going to get out of the way. Influence has got to be personal, not positional. Positional influence is just simply this. That is something that's bestowed upon me by the organization I'm in. The only thing wrong with positional influence, your influence will last just as long as you are there. No, your influence needs to be personal, which goes back to that intimacy thing. We don't lead by position. Don't lead by title. That can only last for so long. And I looked up here through the last speaker and I saw the term crew boss. But you know, there's one thing, it doesn't matter if your title is a boss, that don't mean you have to be bossy. See, because bosses who are bossy say go. Leaders say let's go. Former Commandant of the Marine Corps in 1999 sent out his command guidance to the entire Marine Corps. He took an excerpt from the second Jungle Book, written by a man by the name of Rudyard Kipling. And it was the very last line of the first stanza. But if you just allow me to, I'm gonna give you the whole stanza. Hope I can remember. I got one brain cell starting to flicker right now. Now this is the law of the jungle. It's all in the true in the sky. And the wolf that shall keep it will prosper. But the wolf that shall break it must die. As the creeper girdles the tree trunk, the law runneth forward and back. For the strength of the pack is the wolf. And the strength of the wolf is the pack. And General James L. Jones took out that last line and he sent it out as an all-Marine memorandum to impress upon the Marine Corps of what Marines should consider themselves as. That the Marine Corps is just as strong and as weak as that individual Marine. We don't gather our strength from an organization. We gather our strength from one another. Marine Corps is only as effective as that PFC to stand that fight. It's only as strong as that individual Marine. I asked Mr. Martin earlier, because I'm just not familiar with everyone in this conference. Does everyone here, has everyone here been issued a uniform? And with that, if you have been issued a uniform, the question comes to mind, are you leading your people to the extent that they don't wear a uniform, but that they believe in the uniform? Because there's a difference between the two. You might wear suits of clothes, but you believe in a uniform. That thing should mean something. That there's a buy-in to what you do every day. If you were to get in your vehicle or take a quick plane trip to either Marine Corps Recruit Depot in Paris Island, South Carolina, or go to the one in San Diego, California, and you went upon one of those guys or gals that were standing there with their funny looking hats, everybody trying to pretend to be Smokey Bear. If you ask them if you could speak to a first phase recruit, there are 3 phases of recruit training. First phase, the folk are only there for 3 weeks. I guarantee you, if you walked up to any one of those recruits, they can tell you that the Marine Corps birthday is 10 November 1775. They can tell you that Chesney Puller won 5 Navy Crosses. They can tell you that Dave Daly won 2 Medals of Honor, one in Veracruz and one in Cuba. They can tell you that a man by the name of John Bassalone, who drove a laundry truck in New Jersey, won the Medal of Honor on Guadalcanal by single-handedly annihilating a Japanese regiment. And the reason why they can tell you that, because they believe they are a part of something. Or the people you lead, they believe that? Well, you're the ones that's got to make it. They're just occupying the job, occupying the space. I believe that what you do is just as important as every person that's ever put on the uniform the armed forces of this country. And for each one of them, they have written a check made payable to the United States of America for a sum up to and including their life. Do the people that you lead believe that? Do you believe it? Because if you don't believe that yourself, they never will. And doesn't matter what you do. Say, hey, well, I'm not on the fire. You ain't got me on the fire. Well, I'm just in an office. You are just as important as everyone else. Now, Marines all the time, infantry, grunt, number dragons, of which I was one. They don't like nobody else because they ain't in the field with them. Till you remind them, one day you will pick up that M16 and you will go bang, bang, click. And you better hope that there is somebody in the office that's going to requisition some more ammo. That you cannot do this on your own. That it takes a team to do this. You are stewards. No, not just over the natural resources in this country. You're stewards of people. which means you are shepherds of people. You're the shepherd of them. And that's why intimacy is so important. Because there has never been a shepherd worth their weight that don't smell like their sheep. But you gotta get close to folks. All right, I got a little bit of time. So we want to end it with this. I like to share this. This probably speaks to more than anything else of what you do. The steward part, the shepherd part, and the servant part. That you're a servant. That you either serve those who are senior to you, those who are junior to you. But you serve somebody. Reminds us that being a servant, that I don't mind getting a phone call at 2:30 in the morning. No, I start being concerned when the phone calls stop coming. Because when they stop coming, they've lost their trust in you. It's a novel written by Stephen Pressfield called The Gates of Fire. It's a novel of historical fiction. It speaks of the Battle of Thermopylae. Thermopylae, two Greek words meaning fiery gates. The name of the book is The Gates of Fire. Speaks about a king by the name of Leonidas and 300 Spartans that he had handpicked, even though historically 7,000 people were involved in this battle. But Pressfield focuses on Leonidas, those 300. The whole reason why that they were there is because the Assyrian army was on the march. Historians, even though they have gotten smarter over time, there are historians that were saying the Assyrian army was so large that when they were on the march, that they were drinking rivers dry. Leonidas decides as a stop method, as a defending mechanism, that he is going to hold a position at Thermopylae to give the Grecian states time to mobilize. He did so for 3 days. Stephen Pressfield writes, he writes from the standpoint of a young man by the name of Zionis, who was not a hoplite. He was not one of the Spartans, but he was the serf, if you will. He was the slave for Leonidas. And after the battle, Xerxes was still alive, rather, Leonidas was still alive. So Xerxes came and he patched him up and took him back to his camp. He fed him, he got him back healthy. And he did so for one reason. He brought Zionis before him, and he said, I want you to tell me what would possess 300 men to hold their position, knowing that they would lose. He said, I know how Spartans train, and I know that Spartans bleed like every other man. What would cause them to hold their position, knowing that they wouldn't win? And Zionis looks at the king of Syria, king of Assyria, rather. And he says these words to him. I will tell your majesty where the king is. A king does not abide within his tent while his men bleed and die on the field. A king does not eat while his men go hungry, nor sleep as they stand and watch upon the wall. A king does not command his men's loyalty through fear, nor purchase it with gold. He earns their love by the sweat of his own back and the pain he endures for their sake. That which comprises the harshest burden, a king lifts first and sets down last. King does not command service from those he leads. He provides it to them. He serves them, not they him. I dare you to take the word king and put your name in there. I dare you. That guy double dog, David. That's what leaders do. Serve. Unashamedly. Unhesitatingly. Serve by love. Strong sense of integrity. By the influence that we make in the lives of others. Change agents. Changing the lives of people. God bless you, each and every one of you. Serve fidelity.